Hi everyone, welcome to Bikini Design Club. Let's start sewing our sun hat pattern. You can buy the pattern at bikinidesignclub.com, or if you prefer, you also have a video on how to draft your own pattern. So I have my pattern and two fabrics, the red and the pink, and also my interfacing, which will be ironed to my fabric. So let's start by cutting all our fabrics using the fold line mentioned on the pattern. Before I cut my interfacing, I'm going to remove the seam allowances from all my pattern pieces because I don't want the edges to be too bulky. So I will use the same pattern and simply cut the seam allowances, and then I will cut my interfacing. Choose one of your fabrics and with your iron your interfacing to your fabric. In this case, I chose the red fabric. Do that for all your pattern pieces. Today I will be sewing a size large, but you have sizes already available from extra small to extra large at bikinidesignclub.com. Check your head circumference and choose a little bit bigger size than the real measurement from your head circumference. It's now time to mark the middle of every pattern piece. So I have my 4 brims for the main fabric and second fabric. I have the 2 top head circumferences, and I also have, of course, the head crown, which I'm gonna mark now the middle. I have an erasable pen, but if you don't, you can also use chalk. Mark the middle points on the top edge and also on the lower edge on the brim and also on the head crown, and on your circumference mark the 4 opposite edges of your circumference, so that when we align the fabrics, everything will be placed correctly. With all the middle points marked, and I have here on the table my 4 brims, I'm gonna set them aside and I'm gonna start by pinning the side seam with right sides facing together of my head crown. Do it for the main fabric and also for your second fabric. I'm gonna pin the side seam of my head crown, and I'm also going to go ahead and prepare the brim to be sewn. Place them right sides facing together and pin both edges so that then we will sew them with 1 centimeter seam allowance, of course, included on our pattern. Do this for the main fabric and also for your second fabric. With my side seams sewn, I'm gonna flatten them and iron them, and of course doing a top stitch on the right side of the fabric so that my seam is completely flat and beautiful. And I do this not only on my head crown, but of course on my brim and all fabrics. With my seams ironed and flat, I'm able to do the perfect top stitch. grab your head crown, and the smaller edge is the one that is going to be sewn on the top circumference on the top of our head. And I'm going to align my seam, which will be on the back of my head, with one of the markings that I've made on my pattern. And since I have marked my pattern, all my pattern middle pieces, remember, now I'm just going to align the four opposite edges first, and then I'm going to pin all around the two fabrics together so that I can then sew with 1 centimeter seam allowance. The process for the two fabrics is exactly the same, so everything we do for one of them, we have to repeat for the second fabric. Now that the head crown is sewn to the top, let's cut slightly, without cutting our threads, all along the edge of our top. Do the same for the main fabric and for our second fabric. This step is optional, but I usually flatten the seam against one of the sides. It's up to you. I usually flatten it against the head crown, and I do a top stitch. Of course, repeat the process on your main fabric and second fabric. Here you can see the top stitch on the red fabric and also on the pink one with the flowers. And it's finally time to connect the brim to the rest of your head. Usually I place my side seams to the sides, each side, and my back seam aligns with one of the markings that I've made on the back of my head. Now it's very easy. You just align the side seams with all the markings that you have done before on your fabrics. Align, I will usually pin the four spots and then in between them. And then let's sew the main fabric and the lining with 1 centimeter seam allowance. This is a reversible pattern, so usually I leave a small hole when I sew the second fabric. I leave a small hole so that I then can reverse all the hats to the right side. I mark the hole with a pen so that I don't forget. I will do the hole only on my second side of the fabric. The other one, let's pin and sew all around. Once you sew this area, don't forget to also cut slightly all around, of course, not cutting our threads, and repeat the process for both fabrics. If you want, you can again flatten your seam against the head crown and do a top stitch. This time I will do it on the red fabric, but I will not do it on the pink one. And that's just because today I decided to reverse it with a hole, as you can see here on the pink. That is exactly on the seam between the brim and the head crown. And so today I'm not going to do any top stitch on my second fabric in this area. You could also go ahead and do the hole when you sew the two fabrics together and use one of the edges from the brim. But today I wanted to do in this area because I think with a leather stitch made by hand, it will actually have a better result than when I reversed it on the edge of the brim. It's almost done. Now we just need to place right sides facing together of our sun hats and sew the edge of the brim all along the edge, the entire edge. And then we will reverse the hat with the hole that we left on the pink fabric and do a leather stitch hand sewn. I will show you how to do the leather stitch if you want to watch the tutorial till the end. If you don't, that's it for today, girls. I hope to see your sun hats very soon. Bye! As always, pin the edge of the brim all around and sew using the 1 cm seam allowance. Again, with intervals of more or less 2 centimeters or 1 inch, cut all around the edge without cutting your threads and use the hole to reverse the hat to the right side. At this point, I usually now take some time and first iron all the brim and also all the hat. And then I also do a top stitch on the edge of my brim. You can do not only a top stitch on the edge, but you can actually create a pattern with threads by sewing the entire brim all around. It's up to you to create and to be inventive regarding the decoration of your brim. And this time I'm just going to do a top stitch on the edge of my brim once I have ironed it all around, and then I'm gonna sew the hole with the leather stitch. Let me tell you that I'm not very perfectionist regarding this because I don't like to do it, but let me try and show you how I do it. Well, you have a knot on the edge of your threads, and I inserted from the inside my needle, and on the fold area I made the first stitch. Then I cross exactly to the opposite side and I go a little bit to the sides, just like I'm showing you here. Now again to the opposite sides, again 2 millimeters or 3, and out. And we have started our leather stitch, and this is always repeating the same. In front, go inside the fold 2 or 3 millimeters and out. And again, opposite sides, inside, go to the fold, 2 millimeters, out. And that's it till the end. In the end, you tie a knot, you go with your needle inside your brim so that the ends of your thread will be inside the brim. And now, yes, we are ready and our sun hat is done. See you soon, girls. Bye bye.